So in this segment, we're going to be talking about the UK set to see the lowest growth of any developed country, says the OECD. This will be still above Russia, but the Russia not classed as a developed economy; they're classed as a developing economy. That's why that statement holds true. That out of the developed economies, we're going to have the lowest growth next year out of all the G7 economies as well. So the UK economy will grow more slowly than expected this year and will stagnate next year, a think tank says. The Organisation of Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, expects the UK economy to grow 3.6% this year, followed by 0% next year. It's going to hit a grinding halt. It means the UK will go from the second fastest growing economy in the G7, even though Boris Johnson claims we're the first fastest growing economy in the G7. Some Brexiteers say it as well, and then they change it when they get corrected. This is out of the group of industrial nations set to the slowest in 2023. That we're going to do worse than the Americans, the Canadians, everyone else. The G7 members are the US, UK, Canada, Germany, Japan, France and Italy. The OECD is a group of countries which aims to assist economic development, raise living standards and promote growth. So the OECD are genuinely, I think they're fine. I don't have a massive opinion on them either way. Lawrence Boone, a Paris-based think tank chief economist, said the UK was being hit hard by a combination of factors. So higher interest rates, higher taxes, that's a government decision because they want to claw back the money they wasted during the pandemic. £32 billion on Serco Test and Trace, for example. Reduced trade, so our imports have taken a hit, but more importantly, our exports have taken a massive hit. And exports are one of the things that help fuel the economy. That's a Brexit impact. More expensive energy. Energy has gone up significantly. It's a global problem. Let's not forget that. But the UK sold off a lot of our gas storage, which causes a lot of issues. And the fact that we're outside the EU's internal energy market, which again causes issues. And food prices have gone up by around 6% from last year. You've got farms who don't have, the people to pick the fruit, etc. But also, obviously, the Russia's invasion of Ukraine have made food far more expensive as well. But we'll talk about that in a few minutes. It's not just the Russian invasion. The UK was heading towards a massive inflation crisis before that. So inflation is expected to keep rising and peak at around 10% at the end of this year before gradually declining to 4.7% by the end of 2023. I think it's going to go probably around 12%, depending, because the figures now aren't great, and we're only into the middle of the year. And the fact that the energy cap being risen, so essentially at the end of the year, people will pay more for their gas, for their energy, basically. That's going to be a huge problem, and that's going to further push inflation higher. Because I think that's one of the main drivers of it. It's the cost of energy, the cost of heating your home, etc. However, the report does not take into account the chances of emergency measures taken on May 26th. Those measures would include a £400 energy discount for every household and is worth $15 billion. The problem with this discount is that it only, that number is inflated because if you own lots of homes, you're going to be receiving £400 per home. So this system doesn't make any sense. So there'll be a lot of rich people pocketing money that they should not be getting. And so it's just ludicrous. It should have been people earning less than a certain amount, or they should have factored in for landlords. Landlords should have only got one for the households they own. So those landlords might not even pass on that £400 onto the people living in the rented accommodation. What a wild system we live in, huh? So that 15 billion intervention is not going to do what it should be doing, really. A Treasury spokesperson said many people would be concerned by the forecasts, as they should be. While we can't insulate the UK from global pressures entirely, but if you look at what the OECD actually talked about up here, to do with higher interest rates, which is the Bank of England control that. Higher taxes, the government directly control that. Reduced trade, the government caused that. More expensive energy, again, the government did play a slight part in that. And food, the government did play a part in that as well. So to argue that they can't, insulate us from growing pressures is ridiculous. Our economy is in a strong position to deal with these challenges. We're not. We're a house of cards right now and we're falling apart. We live in a country where nurses are having to rely on food banks. Don't want to hear how strong the economy is. We have a plan for growth. No, you don't. The only plan for growth you have is of your donors' bank balances and for your own. Let's be honest here. Rachel Reeves, this statement again frustrating. She says the OECD report lays bare the extreme challenges facing the economy. That economic growth in the UK will grind to a halt next year, with only Russia performing worse than us in the G20. So that's of the 20 most developed nations in the world. Is a shameful indictment of the chaos and incoherence of the Tories. Labour would create a more secure economy by spending wisely, taxing fairly, and getting the economy firing on all cylinders. These are all phrases the Tories could easily use. That's the annoying thing. Like, this tells me nothing about Labour, what Labour are planning. Genuinely ridiculousness from this group of people. Honestly, spending wisely, what does that mean? Taxing fairly, are you going to put the tax rate up or down, or what are you going to do with that? Getting the economy firing on all cylinders. How are you going to do that? Because at the moment our exports are knackered, and getting in imports is not easy either. So what are you going to do about it? It's just bizarre to me. We've got some analysis from Andy Verity. He says, however, it will be months or years before living standards recover to their 2021 levels, and living standards in 2021 were not great. If we go back to the amount of food bank usage here just quickly, 2020, 2021, you can see 2.5 million people were reliant on food banks. Almost 2 million were reliant in 2019, 2020, and this is just from the Trussell Trust food banks. No doubt these numbers would be higher, but these are the numbers I could find. So it's genuinely just madness to me. The final point I want to make is, if we actually look at this in graph form, it's very pixelated. I apologise for that. Can't be helped. Which is, Russia is the only major country with lower projected growth than the UK. If we actually look at the numbers here, Saudi Arabia at 9%. It's probably down to the energy crisis. You got China at 4.9, Canada 2.6, the Euro area 1.6, France 1.4. Where are we? We're at 0 here, second lowest, only behind Russia. And if there was no war in Ukraine, guarantee you Russia would be higher than us. And for the ones who claim that it's down to global energy and the Russian invasion of Ukraine, Russia invaded Ukraine on the 24th of February, right? If we look at the inflation figures for that time, for February, right, it was already at 6.2%, and it was climbing very quickly. It was climbing very, very quickly. Month on month, you're seeing like 1% increase, almost a 0.5% increase. You're seeing very dramatic increases since February of 2021. You can see it's creeping up. Look at that. Then you've got the war in Ukraine. We're at 6.2%. March is when you can argue things would have kicked in, 7%. And look at that, it's still going up by 2%. So to argue it's down to the Russian invasion of Ukraine simply doesn't make sense when that invasion happened in February, and we're already seeing very high inflation rates in the UK. But yeah, it's just one of the frustrations I have. The government don't mention Brexit. They don't even mention when the Russian invasion of Ukraine started. They should really mention that if they actually want to give decent analysis, like I've tried to give you there, which is, this is not just down to the war in Ukraine. It's down to Brexit in part. It's also down to other kind of global supply chain pressures. But the thing is, right, the question we really need to ask ourselves is, why are comparable economies, right, going to be doing better? So if we look at the G7 countries, right, why is it the US are going to go up by 1.2%, Italy are going to go up, France are going to go up, Germany are going to go up, Japan are going to go up. These are other G7 member states. Why are they doing so much better? Canada are quite high, up here at 2.6. Why are these countries going to be doing better than us? That's something the BBC failed to answer, which is very frustrating. But you can see it's global supply chain pressures, it's government ineptitude long term over a lot of things, and of course it's the B word, which no one wants to mention in government or the Bank of England apparently. But anyways, or the BBC, lots of B's. Anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, support the channel on Patreon if you can, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.